What's up, guys? I'm Laura from Reading in Bed, and this is going to be the Boujee Book Tag. Now, like many of us over the age of 30, 35, I had to start by Googling what is Boujee. I had some basis. I'm glad that Steve Donahue did this tag first and admitted that he also had to do some Googling. I at least knew that the word came from bourgeois, and I'm even familiar with the song Bad and Boujee by Migos, so I kind of had like that basis. But I'm not sure, and still not sure, even after going down a bit of a rabbit hole, whether the word bougie has positive or negative connotations, or maybe neutral. I thought, and still kind of think, it has slightly negative ones, that there's an element not only of like showy, conspicuous consumerism, but also that you're trying to like get above your station or like seem classier than you actually are, something like that. A bit of striving, right? That in sort of a bad way. But then, yeah, some examples I saw, it seemed to be a good thing. Or maybe it's just neutral and it just means like any kind of, spending, show of money or consumer power or whatever. So, if you're an expert on this, let me know. Like, is bougie a good thing or a bad thing? Regardless, this is a tag about how we spend money on books and the value that we place on books and the value for money. So I'm also bringing a bit of a research perspective. I do market research in my day job, and a big part of that is actually around pricing and how much we can charge for various products and services, while still being accessible to the public, but kind of maximizing our revenue and all of that. So I'll try not to get too far into that because boring, right? But that kind of is what this tag is about. So let's just get started. So the first question is, what is your average monthly budget for books? I'm not sticking to a budget very well right now. I need to revisit that. But last year I kind of was, and I set it at $50 a month or $600 a year because it's more useful to think of it annually. And last year, at least the months where I was tracking, I was, pretty close to that. Now this year, I estimate I've spent around $150 to $200 on books, and we're into September. But this has been a bit of a weird year because I've done the 20 books of summer, which was all books from my shelves. And the first 3 months or so of the year, I was off social media, blogs, YouTube, etc. So I wasn't getting on any hype trains. I also chose not to go hard on the Man Booker International Prize this year, which is an expensive one because you have to buy from the UK and stuff like that. So it's been kind of a lean year. Now I'm not including spending on my kids, and we'll kind of get to that. That's just books for myself. Okay, so question 2 is, what's the most you've ever spent in a bookstore? So here's where I can't really separate it from spending on my kids, because it would definitely be those big Christmas shopping trips. I will typically buy each of my kids around 3 books. Like, usually each one will get sort of a classic, something that I deem worthy, let's say, something that I know they want. We're talking our Dogman, Big Nate, etc. And then like a graphic novel or comic book. So like 6 new books alone adds up. And then I'm also buying toys. Audrey's, our independent bookstore, has a huge toy section, and Chapters stores tend to have a lot of Lego, so I'm buying a lot of non-book things too. So like those trips are easily in excess of $200 or $300. Now, as far as buying books for myself, I don't really know. Probably $100-ish, I would say, if I'm buying like 2 or 3 books for myself. Okay, question 3 is, are you willing to pay full price for a brand new release, or will you wait until you have a coupon or it goes on sale? Well, just last week, of course, I rushed out and bought Ducks Newburyport. I think the actual pub date is today, but I heard that Audrey's had 2 copies. So I, ran over on my lunch hour and, of course, paid full price for this. Now, so yes, I am willing to pay depending on the circumstances, right? Like, a new full price release is usually not my first choice. I would almost always look at the library first and try to pay nothing. And then, if I really like something or want to keep it, I would buy it afterwards. In the case of Ducks Newburyport, I know I'm going to need to take notes. So like if I know I'm either reviewing a book or need to take notes or whatever, I'm more willing to go out and buy it right off the bat. Yeah, so obviously I am willing because I do it, but it's usually not my first choice. Question 4 is, would you rather buy one new book or several less expensive used copies? Well, again, it would depend on what the book was, right? It would depend on its availability. It would depend on why I'm reading it. Like, is it important that I get this new release right now so I can be, part of the conversation, or does it not really matter? So yeah, I mean, it's more fun to kind of go out and look for used books and bring home a whole bunch. Library sales, for example, are very fun. I've had to ban myself for like going overboard for a number of years. So yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I guess I would say several used copies, but it depends on why I'm reading it. Okay, so question 5 is getting to the heart of the matter. What do you think is a reasonable price for a new hardcover, a new paperback, and a new ebook? Now, I want to sit here and be like, well, what does reasonable mean? But I'll try not to do that. And I'll just say, I would love to see books priced at $20 for a hardcover, $10 for a paperback, and $5 for an ebook when something is a brand new release and it's not on sale. I like the symmetry of the paperback being half the cost of the hardback and the ebook being half the price of the paperback. And for me, I very rarely, unless I really need the ebook for some reason, don't want to pay more than $5 for an ebook. And then when they go on sale, you can move to like a 15, 5, and 2 for books that are on sale. And then when things are on clearance or deep discount, you can go to $5, $2, and $1. Now, Steve and or Olive, I can't quite remember, I think had an interesting discussion about how they wish that publishers would drop the prices on new books, because honestly, they are really high. Like here in Canada, new hardcovers are often $40 or more, which is a lot. And they're saying, like, why don't publishers drop the prices, and then more people will buy and they'll still make either as much or more money. And just from my background in like the theory and the science of pricing and stuff, like they're probably right, but not necessarily, because people are not always logical about pricing, and it depends on what like market you're in or whatever, right? So you would think that to be the case, and I think for books they are probably right, but people don't always use common sense when it comes to prices, and so I would just caution them on that. I mean, it's not like that's likely to happen anyway. I mean, we can hope, but like obviously people like us would buy more books, but I don't know if the general public would rush out and start buying new release hardcovers if the price went down. It's kind of hard to say. So anyways, question 6 is a signed book worth more to you? How about a first edition? So again, like, what do we mean by worth? Olive talked a bit about resale value, and when she kind of calls her books, she sometimes tries to sell them, so like that's part of her sort of mental arithmetic when it comes to books. Me, not so much. Not really because I don't want or need the money, but just because I'm lazy. When I get rid of books, I donate them to the library because it's very easy for me to do so, and then I feel like I'm kind of supporting the library as well. It is a donation, so I'm never thinking in terms of resale value or anything like that. That said, I can give you a couple examples. The only signed first edition I ever really pursued and paid for was Freedom by Jonathan Franzen, and you can tell that this is someone looking to sell to collectors, because they included like the Barnes and Noble's newsletter that had like the event listing and stuff like that, and a couple other little flyers and stuff. It's signed, it's dated. I paid not that much, like probably 30 or 40 US on eBay, which is like not bad. It's not that much more than hardcovers cost these days. But so yeah, I mean, that one is worth something to me and might actually be worth something out in the world as well. As opposed to, so this one, I just did the year 2000 tag and talked about this book and totally forgot that I both own it and own it in a signed edition. So this is, personalized to me. I got this at an event that Margaret Atwood was at. But, I rushed out to a used bookstore and grabbed a copy for her to sign the day of the event. You can see it's kind of dirty. So like in terms of actual worth, probably not, because it's personalized, because it's secondhand. It might be a first edition because it doesn't have any awards swag on it, but probably not worth that much. And then I have a lot of signed copies from local authors and like Canadian authors that come to Edmonton. So, for example, I have this one, Come Barbarians by Todd Babiak. It's signed. and personalized. So he said, for Laura, reading is sexiest in bed, referring to the name of my blog, of course. So like that is worth something to me, just sentimental value and that kind of thing. And then lastly, so this isn't even a signed edition, but one of the books that has the most sentimental value to me is this Arc of Purity by, again, Jonathan Franzen. Because I picked this up at Book Expo America, it's not signed because he wasn't signing books because, you know, he doesn't want to or need to. So, but you know, this always reminds me of being at that event. So this one is very special to me. It's, you know, it's trashed because like I reviewed this book, so it's got all sorts of dog ears and it's falling apart and all of that, but it's a special book to me. Okay, so that was question 6. Question 7 is, what is your most valuable book, sentimental or value? Okay, so I guess I answered that question too. So probably that Arc of Purity has the most sentimental value to me. There'd be some other ones too, but overall, I don't really think much of my collection has a ton of like money value worth. Sentimental tends to be books that remind me of an event or you know, who I was with or whatever. Question number 8 is, will you pay more for a cover or edition you like better? Sometimes, but not often. So just a little example, and a lot of people are talking about classics here, because that's like with a classic, you can pay nothing for most of them because they're on Project Gutenberg. So if you're paying anything at all, you are paying for a cover or an edition you like. So a recent example is The Lost Estate, which I looked for in Canada, and most of the covers were just like really ugly, whereas I like the sort of cleanness of these Penguin Classic pocket penguins, I guess is what they're called. Although you can see hasn't stood up very well. Like there's a lot of around the edges and the spine. There's a lot of wear, and I mean, I wasn't that hard on this book, so I paid a little bit more. I ordered this from Blackwell's, but not a ton. I sort of do the opposite sometimes, where I'll pay less for an edition that I don't like as much. So an example of that would be Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. I read this from the library, so paid nothing at first. Then I was invited to be on a radio program to make some book recommendations, and I wanted to talk about this one. So like, oh shit, I better like get myself a copy and reread it and mark it up. So I didn't want to pay for the full price hardcover because I'd already read it. So I think I ordered this from Blackwell's maybe at the same time as the other one. It was cheap. It was like $10 or something, but it's ugly. And had I known, like, this is the size of a mass market, I thought it was more like a trade paperback, and I wouldn't have bought it had I known that. So this is like an ugly edition that I don't like that I paid less for. Okay, question 9 is, what physical characteristics does a good quality book have? I think people are answering this just in like what their preferences are. It doesn't seem to me that there's much correlation between the physical characteristics of a book and its price, other than, you know, sort of the difference between hardback and paperback and that kind of thing. Like, I don't like deckled edges. I like good paper quality. There's stuff like that, but I don't think like price really ties into those that much. I mean, I just want something that I can throw in my purse and not worry about the cover getting all bent out of shape. So I guess like a sturdy enough cover to stand up to the abuse I will put a book through. And of course, like most people, I like a nice heavy paper quality, although once it gets to be a longer book, then you're just adding weight. So I don't know. Okay, so we're on to the last question, and then there's a bonus. Question 10 is, if you won the lottery, what bookish things would you do with the money? And this is such a fun question, and I love everyone's answers, and I'll just be repeating a lot of them. So I'll just say, I think some of the things I would do if I won the lottery, and I assume we're talking about a big one, right? Like some of the things I would do anyway would just also have a bookish quality. Like I would quit my job and therefore would spend more time reading, or maybe, you know, I don't know. I mean, I would pursue something in the bookish realm, whether I'd like go back to school and you know, become a librarian or something, which is a boat I think maybe I missed sometimes, or I would like start a new book festival, because we don't really have a big fiction book festival in our city, which is weird. Or I would really pursue like writing book reviews, which I've done like a little bit of, but just, you know, obviously can't make it my day job, but I could if I won the lottery. Also, if I won the lottery, I'd be looking to make donations, right? And one of them would be the library, not only for the bookish aspect, but I think our library, like many libraries out there, provide a lot of social services as well. I'd be looking at literacy associations, etc. Like, again, our library provides a book and a library card to like every new baby that's born in our city. So, you know, extending that program to older kids, maybe there'd be all sorts of possibilities, right? And then the last question is kind of tied to that. So the last bonus question is, give us an image of your dream home library, which, you know, I wouldn't really be able to achieve probably without winning the lottery. And I can't really give an image because I'm not a visual person. I'm not good at design or anything. So what I would do if I had the funds, I would hire a designer and just tell them, here's what the problems I want you to solve, like the common sort of problems I have in my usual book reading spots, you know, to do with lighting and access to somewhere to put my food and drinks and writing instruments and all of that. You know, here's my requirements. You design something and buy all the stuff and bring it into my house and just do all of that, all that stuff I'm not good at. And then once that was done, then I would show you what my dream home library looks like. Right now, I don't know. So that is it. That is the Boujee book tag. I will try to tag some people down in the description box because I'm not prepared as usual. Thanks to Olive for tagging me.